Watch two people say goodbye at a front door. One has their coat on and their keys already out, half turned toward the car. And every single time they turn to go, the other one says one more thing. The visitor makes it to the bottom step. Right, I'd better head off, and there it is. One more sentence, and they turn back around. And it's never the important thing. It's a small addition, a tiny correction, and another thing, landing at the exact moment the door starts to swing shut. You've heard someone do this on the phone. Okay. Okay, bye. Yep. Talk soon. Okay. Neither of you can hang up, but only one of you actually can't. So the tell isn't the goodbye itself. The tell is that the door is not allowed to close on your sentence. There has to be one more, and it has to be theirs. So here's the question this whole thing answers. Why would somebody who already agrees with you, who has genuinely nothing left to add, still need to be the one who says the final word? And before you call it rudeness, or some need to control everything, watch their face the second they manage it. There's no triumph there. There's relief. And relief is a completely different animal. Because relief means there was fear underneath the whole time. So what exactly are they afraid happens the moment you get to speak last? Here's the thing about the last sentence in any conversation. It's the one that stays hanging in the air after both people have left the room. Everything before it gets shuffled and half forgotten by morning. The last line is the one you carry out the door, into the car, all the way to bed. So whoever says that last line isn't only ending the conversation. They're quietly deciding what the conversation was. Picture a room emptying out, and one sentence still sitting in the middle of it like smoke that won't clear. Whoever's sentence that is, that's whose room it turns out to have been. For most people that's nothing at all. The conversation ends, you never once think about whose sentence came last, you just go home. For them, letting your sentence be the last one feels like handing you the keys to their house and then walking out of it themselves. So they reach back in. One more line. Not to win, the winning's already done, just to be the hand that turns off the light. Because whoever turns off the light was the one still standing there when it ended. And whoever's words just hung there in the dark, the room closed on them. They're the one who got left. That's the whole mechanism in a single move. You think you're just ending a chat. They're deciding who gets left in the room, and who gets to walk out having shut the door behind them. But watch closely, because here's what rules out the obvious answer. They will lose the argument on purpose and still take the last word. You'll be braced for a fight, mid-sentence, and instead, no, you're right. And your shoulders come down, because it's finally over. Except it isn't. Because right behind, you're right, comes a small word. But. Or although. Or, I suppose. And a brand new sentence gets built out on the far side of it. They gave you the point. They just didn't give you the ending. Those were always two different things, and they only ever wanted one of them. Watch the shape of it. Agree, 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 and then one little clause that pries the door back open a crack, just wide enough for their hand to be the one that closes it. It's the, just to be clear, after the thing was already perfectly clear. The, anyway, like I said, that adds nothing at all, except that they were the one who said it. You could hand them the entire argument, every single point, gift-wrapped, and it still wouldn't land, because you'd have handed it over with your voice. And their voice has to go last. Which tells you the fact was never the thing. The position was never the thing. The thing is the position in the room, who's still standing in it when the lights finally go out. Think of a route drawn between two people, pin after pin, back and forth across the map. They genuinely do not care which way the road ends up running. They care only that the last pin is theirs. So the argument was never a road heading somewhere. It was a contest over who gets to plant the pin that says, here. This is where it ends. And I'm the one who said so. But why would the last sentence ever come to carry that much weight? For that, you have to go back to the very first rooms they were ever in. So picture a house where conversations end by decision, and the kid is never the one who gets to make it. Something's happening, the kid is right in the middle of saying their piece, and an adult says, that's enough now. And that's the end. Not the end of the point, the end of the conversation. Or the softer version, which is somehow worse. We'll talk about it later. And the kid goes to bed holding half a sentence in its hands, and later simply never comes. A bedroom door swinging closed while they're still explaining, hand out, mouth open, and the latch clicks shut anyway. And here's what a kid takes from 100 nights like that. The conversation didn't end when it was actually finished. It ended the moment the bigger person decided it had. Every one of those endings drove home the same lesson. Your sentence doesn't close anything. Somebody else's does. You just get left holding whatever was left over. And being left mid-sentence has a very particular feeling to it. It isn't losing. It's being quietly erased out of the room while you're still standing in it. So somewhere back there, a decision gets made that they will never say out loud, and mostly don't even know they made. Never again let someone else be the one who closes the door. Never be the one still talking when it ends. Be the one who ends it. Get your voice to the latch before anyone else can reach it. And in a different kind of house, it isn't a door that closes on them. It's a back that turns and walks away. A parent who ends conversations by simply leaving the room. Mid-thing, no warning, just up and gone, and suddenly the kid is talking to an empty doorway. A kid standing in that learns to get the last word in before the other person can even stand up. Say it fast, say it final, before the chair can scrape back. Either way it's the same wound wearing two different coats. The conversation walked out and left them standing there, and they were far too small to stop it. So now they're grown. And they are never, ever going to be left standing alone in a room again. Whatever it takes. Even if what it takes is one more pointless sentence at somebody's front door. Now here's the part that gives the whole thing away completely. They do not do this with everyone. Watch them with a stranger. A cashier says something slightly wrong, gets the last word, walks off with it, and nothing. They don't even register it. A colleague ends a meeting on a wrong note and they let it slide. A stranger on a train has the final say and they just shrug and look back out the window. Then put that same person in a kitchen with the one who's leaving would actually cost them something. And it fires. Instantly. Over absolutely nothing. Which tells you it was never a habit, and never just a personality. It's a switch. And you can see precisely what flips it. It only ever fires in the rooms they're most afraid of being left in. The people who could genuinely walk out on them for real, those are the only ones whose last word they can't allow. Because a stranger closing a door means nothing, you were never staying in that room anyway. But your brother? Your oldest friend? The person across the kitchen? If they close the door, it might actually stay shut. So the last word was never really aimed at the argument at all. It's a hand jammed into the one door they cannot survive hearing click shut. And a hand jammed in a door is not a person winning anything. It's a person who has felt a door close on them once, and swore on their life it would never happen again. That's why it looks so wildly out of proportion. You're just trying to end a chat about where to eat. They're holding a door shut against 30 years. Now here's the part that turns the whole thing completely inside out. The last word doesn't keep a single person in the room. It empties it. Because something happens to the people on the other side of someone who always has to close. Slowly, they stop opening. You learn, without ever deciding to, that any conversation you start with them won't end when it's done. It'll end when they've had their extra sentence, and then one more, and then one more after that. So you start ending things early. One word replies. Yeah, sounds good. You leave the door barely open, so there's less of it left for them to hold. You send okay, and they send okay back, and you feel the pull to just let the thread die, and you know if you don't put the phone down, they'll fire off one more. So you put the phone down. And that, right there, is the exact thing they were terrified of, happening because of the very move they made to prevent it. People closing the doors softly, from the outside, before the conversation even gets going. They wanted to never be left alone in a room. So they made every room exhausting to stay in. And now people leave early, quietly, coats already on before the plates are cleared. They still get the last word. Every single time. They will go to their grave having taken the final sentence in every conversation they ever had. And the rooms get quieter every year, and shorter, and further apart. And they never once connected to the fact that they always got to close the door. From the inside, it never looks like a cost. It looks like everyone else just got quicker to leave. Never like the reason they left was the person standing in the doorway with one more thing to say. So look again at that front door. Coat on, keys out, and one more sentence landing at the exact instant it starts to swing closed. And look at what's actually being asked for there. It was never agreement. It was never even the point. It's, please don't let this end with me on the wrong side of the door. And here's exactly where you should stop, because you have done this too. Not with everyone. But there's one thread on your phone right now you couldn't quite let die. There's one conversation you quietly reopened after it was already finished. One text you sent after, good night, because letting it end on their word felt too much like being left in the dark. You can probably see it right now. The little sentence you tacked on at the door. The one more thing, that wasn't a thing. The reply you sent to a reply that never needed one. And if you look at when you actually do it, not with everyone, only with the people whose leaving would genuinely cost you, you'll find the very same switch they have. Just quieter. Because everybody has a door somewhere they can't stand to hear click shut. Everybody has one room they'd say a completely pointless last sentence just to stay standing in. So the pattern was never really needing the last word. The pattern is what the last word has been standing in for all along. Somebody, a long time ago, who walked out while they were still talking. So somewhere tonight, a door is going to start to swing shut, and a voice is going to reach through the gap with one more sentence that doesn't matter at all. And now you'll know, it was never about the sentence. It's a hand in the door, and a 9-year-old behind it, still trying to be the one who gets to say when it's over.